Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The group stages for the World Cup, as you all know, have officially finished. And today I'm going to be reacting to all of my predictions. Now, I made so many separate prediction videos along the year, and I shouldn't have changed some of them last minute, otherwise I would have gotten a few of these groups right. Right now, on the top of my head, my record is not good whatsoever. This group stage has been insane. One of the most surprising group stages we have seen ever. So many groups went down to the wire and there were so many upsets. It was incredible to see. I'm not too bummed out that I got a lot of these wrong, but let's take a look at everything, starting off with Group A.
We got Qatar, Ecuador, Senegal, and Netherlands. Previously, and I know I'm not the only one who predicted this, many people are going with Netherlands and Senegal to advance to the next round. It is definitely more of a toss-up though. Look, I know they still got a full squad behind them, but I truly think Sadio Mane's injury for Senegal could very much hurt this side in the group stage. There's obviously so many other great players in that squad, but their attack could definitely be lacking. Senegal were dark horses for so many in this World Cup as well. They look to be that African side to have a very deep run. And I was backing that thought as well, but I hate to say it, I might have to change my mind on that. This is still a very doable group for them without a doubt. But Netherlands look like the favorites. Qatar, there's no denying that they could potentially get some host advantage. And Ecuador are definitely an underdog you cannot sleep on. Their defense can actually very much pull their strings together. Now, Qatar are a very interesting side. I definitely don't think people should sleep on them whatsoever because, like I said, potential host advantage. Their striker partnership between Almoez Ali and AAvfx could definitely cause damage. Ecuador, on the other hand, have had some fantastic defensive displays. To put into context, the last time they conceded a goal was against Argentina in March. I've been doubting Ecuador in all my other prediction videos, but this time around, with this very unfortunate Sadio Mane injury, I do see this group shifting a bit from what I said in the past. We've got Netherlands in first with 3 for 3 wins. Ecuador in second with 4 points, 1 win, 1 draw, and 1 loss. Senegal with 1 win and 2 losses. They grabbed 3 points, and Qatar only grabbed 1 draw and 1 point in this tournament.
Already starting off one of those examples I was talking about. I changed this prediction last minute due to Sadio Mane's injury. I heavily thought that Senegal would suffer without him, but I was dead wrong. Ecuador, I thought they could put off a fantastic fight, and they did at the beginning. They drew with Netherlands. They beat the hosts. Well, everyone did. But then they did lose to Senegal on the final match, and all they needed was a draw. But thanks to a clumsy mistake, Koulibaly was able to smash in a beautiful volley. And I really gotta say props to this side. They are still proving that they can be that dark horse candidate at this World Cup. I am recording this before they play England, so I don't know what happens there. Netherlands, there was no doubt in my mind that they would top this group. I did think that they would clean sweep it, to be honest, and they failed to do that, obviously. But another interesting fact about this World Cup is that in this tournament, no team in any single group has topped their group, getting 9 for 9 points. The last time something like this happened was in 1994, which in a way is awesome because it leaves more mystery as to who really are the favorites in this tournament. And Qatar, I did have some faith in this side from time to time to maybe squeeze to third. At the beginning, I was saying I wouldn't have been surprised if they made it to the knockouts, but boy was that claim wrong. They were the worst ever host nation in the World Cup. 3 for 3 losses, 0 points. South Africa were the only other team in World Cup history as a host nation to not make it to the knockouts. Now Qatar the second, but at least South Africa were able to grab a win. I'm obviously not surprised about the outcome in this group. I feel like most people predicted this actually. It was somewhat evenly split, I guess. Some people were going with Ecuador advancing instead, like me who decided to change that last minute. Again, I banked on that Sadio Mane injury too hard, but obviously Ali El-Cisse is doing a fantastic job with the side. There was no doubt in my mind that Senegal would prove to be a fantastic side. I just thought Ecuador would be able to beat them head to head. But obviously they still got that firepower and are able to score the goals. Best of luck to Senegal.
All right, well, that's already a massive change compared to my previous predictions. Let's move on to Group B now. We've got England, Iran, the USA, and Wales. Now, I've already mentioned in the other prediction videos, it seems like we got a clear favorite here, but we shouldn't rule out these other teams. One of them could potentially top England. It really could happen. Based on England's recent form, they got relegated in their Nations League group. I know a lot of England fans are trying to write that off, but the fact still stands that they lost to Hungary twice, one of the results being 4-0. That group was very tough for them though. 3 European giants. But for the other 3, USA, Wales, and Iran, it's going to be an absolute mess between those 3. I think it's going to be a very even playing field. All these teams have their strengths, and many have their weaknesses as well. The USA's biggest weakness is obviously their manager, Greg Berhalter, who has had some success going his way, but there's no denying his terrible away record and also some very terrible national team selections. He left out the likes of Pifak and Pepe, who have both had very solid seasons so far, and he's still going with his favorites. But regardless of that, this is still one of the best USA squads we are going to be seeing. Lots of young talent here with so much potential. Although we could rely on those great moments, I think they might lack some experience for this tournament though. Now going on to Wales, this is a side that people just love to write off and it's just never a good idea. They haven't qualified for the World Cup since 1958, but in the last 2 Euro runs, they've made it out of the group stage both times. And last but not least, Iran. Iran also have every reason to be hopeful. They got Carlos Queiroz back, who was the manager in 2018, and despite them getting knocked out in the group stage, he made Iran one of the most exciting squads in the group stage. They nearly made it to the next round, just 1 point shy off of Portugal. And that group was already very difficult with Spain and Morocco as well. Now this group on paper is way more doable for them. So here's what my group looks like at the end. England in first with 7 points. And despite Iran beating Wales, they share the same amount of points with them at the end. But since head-to-head does not apply here, Wales advanced to the next round simply because they scored more goals. Iran are heartbroken once again in the group stage. And then USA finished last with just 1 point. Won't be surprised if I'm wrong on any of this. Like I said, I believe I went for a different second place finish each prediction video. Well, I went for Iran twice, but I know in one video I went for USA, and now I'm going for Wales to advance. So I'm torn about it, but I do think Wales will be the ones to make that end statement.
Now, I flopped around with this group a lot throughout my entire prediction series, I guess. I always had England topping it. Despite them flopping in the Nations League, getting relegated there, they had a fantastic group stage run. Granted, their group was easier, but of course I still had faith in this side, but I am surprised that they were able to absolutely destroy some of these teams, scoring 6 goals against Iran, scoring 3 against Wales, none against the USA, surprisingly, where they finished second. On one of my prediction videos, I know I had the USA advancing, but for the most part, I heavily criticized this side. It was easy to pick out at USA the most as they had very disappointing friendly results, and I very much had the feeling that Berhalter would be exposed in these matchups. But the USA's phenomenal talent did flourish in many of these matchups. Getting a draw against England is obviously not easy. I just had that feeling that Wales would kind of sneak their way through as so many people were doubting them. So many people doubt them in the past as well, but they managed to get out of the Euro group twice in a row now. So I thought they might be able to squeeze out in this World Cup group as well, as everybody was talking about either Iran or USA advancing. They only scored 1 goal this entire tournament, and it was a penalty against the United States. Gareth Bale was absolutely silenced in this World Cup. Very much did not produce. Iran was also able to outplay Wales in a fantastic manner, grabbing 2 late goals, but they very much looked like the favorites throughout the entire match. But like I said, on the surface, anything looked possible in this group. I thought Iran would be able to put a much better fight than what they did against England, where they lost 6-2. No way anyone predicted there would be that many goals in that match, especially under Carlos Queiroz, who plays very defensively. Iran just looked like a mess. They've improved very much against Wales, but they couldn't finish the job. They couldn't finish against the United States. To be honest, during these group stages at least, I was very surprised at the United States' defensive display. Apart from Walker Zimmerman's penalty conceded against Wales, this defensive line was very composed throughout the group stage. It was against the Netherlands, obviously, where they just lost all of that touch.
Now taking a look at Group C with Argentina, Saudi Arabia, Mexico, and Poland. I've said in my other videos, I do think Argentina are clear favorites in this group. Undefeated in such a long time, in 30 or 40 or so matches, I lost count at this point. Coming up against a frustrated Mexico, with Tata Martino in charge, this side does not look to be at their best. A Poland that seems to be rebuilding under their new manager Michnovic, who took over right before that last stretch of the World Cup qualifier playoffs. They were able to be convincing there, but the problem is this side always seems to blow it in the major tournaments. At least as of recent, where they have a great qualifier run and then just look dreadful in the group stage. And then Saudi Arabia under Renard seems like a side that won't be conceding as many goals compared to the last World Cup. Maybe they could pull off a surprise against Mexico or Poland, but I truly doubt it will happen against Argentina. In the past, I've said it's going to be a fight between either Mexico or Poland to get that second place spot. And with an unpredictable Poland, it's very much possible despite all the flaws on the team. The thing is, in their World Cup qualifiers, they cut way too many matches close, which they just shouldn't have. So it's like, do I want to believe in the Poland revival? Or do I think Mexico will continue to kind of barely hang on there and squeeze out of this group, despite those flaws under Tata Martino? Argentina in first with 9 points, 3 for 3 wins. Poland in second with 4 points, and Mexico in third as well with 4 points. They both had the same goal differentials as well. The only problem is I'm having Mexico failing to score more goals against Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia finished in last with all 3 losses.
Let's go! Finally one group right. And unfortunately, I think it's the only group I got right in this entire video. Obviously, I wasn't right on the points per se, but I was actually for Poland and Mexico. They had the same amount of points at the end. I was right about them drawing their match, both of them beating Saudi Arabia, and it really broke down to goal differentials, where Poland really only had one more than Mexico. I was wrong about Argentina getting 9 for 9 points though, as they got upset to Saudi Arabia, and there was also a scare there that Saudi Arabia could get out of their group and I would get this wrong. I doubted this side so many times, and they actually put off a fantastic fight against favorites for many. But yeah, unfortunately, history was broken here. Mexico always make it to the round of 16s, and they failed to this year, even though they had the same amount of points as Poland.
Now taking a look at Group D with France, Australia, Denmark, and Tunisia. In 2 prediction videos in a row, I went for that World Cup curse. I still wouldn't be surprised if it happens, but it also seems so scary to bank on this close to the tournament. France in their recent Nations League campaign nearly got relegated. They pulled through at the end, but they finished 3rd under Denmark and Croatia. Yes, they were going through some injuries. Yes, they were kind of testing things around, but so were the other teams. And not to mention, there are still injuries present for this current France squad. Regardless of the depth this country has is ridiculous. It would be absolutely insane if they don't make it out of this group. But we said the same thing about Germany last time. We said the same thing about Spain before then. But going back to France's Nations League group, they were in a group with Denmark. They're in a group with Denmark once again. Denmark already beat this side head-to-head twice in the Nations League. It's very much possible that they grab 3 for 3 wins in the span of 1 calendar year against this side. Since the beginning, I always went for Denmark topping this group, and I'm not going to change that. This could age terribly, but I don't really see Australia's striker force really making an impact against these teams. Jamie McLaren bossing it in the A-League. I don't know if it's going to translate internationally though. Same could be said about their manager, Graham Arnold. So here's what my final table is looking like for this group. I still have Denmark topping it. I'm still going for that World Cup curse where Tunisia advanced over France, and by a pretty decent point margin as well, 3 points.
Now this group I got 100% off. Nothing right in this. Denmark grabbing first, I said, where they finished 4th. This side were known as everybody's dark horse for this tournament, and they absolutely butchered it in a very doable group. I banked on that World Cup curse to happen, and France absolutely proved themselves, destroying Australia, beating Denmark, grabbing revenge against them after they already beat them both times in the Nations League. I've been avoiding showing the actual scores I predicted, but I gotta give myself credit for this one.
Now for Tunisia versus France, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for that upset. I think France can dominate the match, but Tunisia just hold off. Defense looking sharp here. It's an absolute upset, I know. It's going to sacrifice me potentially getting another upset right. But yeah, biga. I'm going to say Tunisia are able to beat France 1-0.
Yeah, it happened, although France did not play their strongest lineup. They could afford a loss since they already topped the group. Yeah, congrats to France for breaking that World Cup curse. The champions curse was present for so long now. It really seemed like a genuine possibility, and Denmark have been playing so well. It was a genuine shock that they finished last. And also completely forgot to touch on Australia. Massive props to this side. Their World Cup qualifier campaign was nowhere near convincing. The playoffs were very great, obviously, but before then they barely squeezed through, and this side managed to make it to the round of 16s regardless, getting a phenomenal goal against Denmark on the final match day. Probably one of the easiest sides to write off, and they still proved so many people wrong, including me. I did have Tunisia being the side to escape, and they actually still put off a decent display. 4 points in this World Cup. They grabbed a draw against Denmark and a win against France, but that match against Australia really decided everything. A very crazy turnout for this group. I know some people did predict this outcome, and I went very bold to say France wouldn't do it. But look how many other upsets happened in this World Cup. That was mine, for France to get knocked out. And boy was I wrong. Now they actually look like they can go very far in this tournament. We'll see how well that ages, as I'm uploading this literally right before France and Poland play.
Let's move on to Group E with Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, and Japan. 2 favorites here, but to be honest, I feel like it's reasonable to doubt either one of them. So maybe this World Cup expectations aren't too high for the Germans, but they still should feel confident to get out of this group. At the same time, though, don't write off these underdogs. Japan, very exciting side. We saw them pull thrillers in the last World Cup. Got knocked out in the round of 16s to a high-scoring affair against Belgium. This side could definitely be a surprise at the World Cup. Recently, it put off a fantastic display against the USA. It genuinely should have been more than 2-0. So here's my final table. I've got Spain in first with 7 points, Germany in second with 6, Japan in third with 3, and Costa Rica in last with 1 point. I'm sorry to those underdogs. I truly believe they have what it takes to prove a lot of us wrong, but I am going to go for the favorites here. I think they can definitely pull off interesting displays, like I said, but it's just not being enough. Those European giants go through.
I know a fair amount of people predicted Group E to have this upset where Japan would get out of the group, but I don't think many people expected them to get first. This group was nuts. Japan beat Spain and Germany 2-1, while still losing to Costa Rica 1-0. This side is the biggest wild card in this entire tournament, defeating 2 European giants, failing to beat a CONCACAF side that most people have been writing off in this tournament. I knew this side could cause trouble. They're very electric and they proved it on the pitch today, very good on the counter. But I didn't think it would be enough against these European giants. Germany knocked out while sharing the same amount of points as Spain. It broke down to goal differentials as Spain demolished Costa Rica 7-0. Germany were in constant scare the entire tournament as they were the first side to be defeated to Japan. They grabbed that draw against Spain, which gave them hope to still make it to the next round. So the Germans felt hopeful because all they needed was for Japan to not beat Spain. But nope, we gotta give the biggest shout out to Japan. They managed to beat Spain while only having 17% possession and beat Germany when they had 26. I mean, that wasn't a surprise. Like I said, they're very good on the counter. It was already heavily criticized that we could see Spain and Germany failing to be clinical.
Now for Group F with Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. At the beginning of these prediction videos, I was doubtful for Hrvatska. I thought they might just barely scrape through. But I am feeling more confident about this side. I do think they'll have a solid display in this tough group. Like I mentioned earlier, they topped their group in their Nations League over Denmark and France. So much general criticism just looking at those retired players and Luka Modric's age, saying that the squad's just filled with old talent. No, that back line is totally revolutionized. So many young players that are absolutely killing it. Gvardiol is the go-to example, obviously. Forgot to mention, I said it before. This group is filled with possibility. I mean, you've got 2 sides that went really far in the last World Cup, but there's still some reason to doubt both of them. I mean, Croatia seemed to have those weaknesses, but now it seemed like they kind of improved in some sense, especially in the defense. Just that attacking option I mentioned, I feel like is a bit worrisome. But Belgium, on the other hand, hasn't really seemed to improve their defense. They're still relying on Vertonghen and Alderweireld, and I don't know if they'll be the best partnership. Against these very energetic Morocco and Canada sides, it could be costly. And I've said it in many videos, and I'm sorry I'm going to say it again, but obviously this Belgium golden generation is not the same as it used to be. For Belgium and Croatia, expectations are very high for both of them. 3rd place and 2nd place in the last World Cup, surely these sides should get out of their group. Morocco, on the other hand, like I explained in the last prediction video, got rid of Halilhodžić. Now they're relying on Regragui. They've got back Ziyech, who hasn't played much this season, but of course Morocco fans are still gassed because he's done a lot for them in the past. So here's what my group's looking like. It hasn't changed from my previous prediction. I've got Croatia on top with 7 points. Belgium in 2nd with 5, Morocco in 3rd with 3, and Canada in last with 1 point.
Morocco tried to warn me. I saw the comments. Everybody was telling me from Morocco that I'm going to be wrong about this prediction. And boy, oh boy, I was. But you know what? I'm not complaining. I'm so happy to see you guys go through. Fully deserved. Morocco absolutely killed this group, topping it. I thought Croatia were going to be the ones to do so. I'm just happy we're able to squeeze out. Hakimi has been fantastic in this group stage. Morocco very creative and clinical in the attack. Bringing on Ziyech, I told you, would bring magic to this side. I had a feeling that they would impress in this World Cup. I just couldn't see either Croatia or Belgium getting grouped. And it happened down to the wire on the final match day between Croatia versus Belgium. Lukaku absolutely saved us. He had so many horrendous misses. We looked like we had that match under control, but then Belgium just absolutely came out of nowhere with those subs. Jeremy Doku was fantastic as well, and our defense gave Lukaku the opportunities, but he just couldn't convert. But yeah, the only match Croatia were able to score any goals was against Canada. To be fair, it was many. Kramaric was great in that match, but unfortunately, what I stated is still true. He's a bit inconsistent for us. Thankfully, John Herdman fueled his motivation, though. He even stated that. But what a disappointing campaign Belgium had. They only scored 1 goal in this tournament, and that was against Canada. I said at the beginning, though, this group is filled with possibility. I'm even surprised Canada tanked it that hard, to be honest. I thought the point gap would be very close between all of the teams. But no, in terms of how they displayed so far in this tournament, Morocco amongst one of the best first-place teams. I knew that sacking Halilhodžić could do this side wonders.
Now for Group G, with Brazil, Serbia, Switzerland, and Cameroon. Brazil look like clear favorites to top this, but they should 100% not underestimate any of these teams. Serbia and Switzerland are some of the most underrated sides in Europe. Switzerland have put some very interesting results against these top teams. I think they drew against Brazil in the last World Cup. They made it all the way to the Euro quarterfinals in the last tournament, beating France in the round of 16s. Switzerland have also topped Italy in their World Cup qualifier group, which ended up having Italy go to those playoffs, and we all know what happened there. And now in the Nations League, although they lost them in the beginning, they ended up grabbing wins, getting the last laugh, against the likes of Spain and Portugal. Serbia, on the other hand, are on an absolute come up with a lot of talent balling out throughout these recent years. The only issue for Serbia might be their defense, but at the same time, it seems like they kind of had a wake-up call during that last Nations League break. They conceded an early goal against Sweden, but then they really picked themselves up and the attack just went all out to make up for that defensive mistake. Maybe conceding that goal is all it took to kind of sharpen them up. It's going to be tough though against that Brazilian attack, without a doubt. And they're playing them first. So here's what my final group's looking like. No changes from my last prediction videos. I've got Brazil at first with 7 points, Serbia in second with 6, Switzerland in third with 4, and Cameroon in last with 0. So the point gap between first, second, and third was not too far off from each other. Switzerland, despite getting a draw against Brazil, just weren't able to do enough. The problem is for Serbia, history is not on their side. They have never made it past the group stage since becoming an independent nation. I think this is their chance to shine. They got the talent, they got the quality. Just don't bottle it against Switzerland, and you'll be okay.
I'm so sorry, everybody. I am so sorry about my predictions for Group G. I feel like I was one of the first people to really hype up this Serbia national team. They really looked like potential dark horses with that phenomenal attack. With Pixie in charge, I thought he could really get the best out of this side despite that shaky defense. But the shaky defense was very much present in this World Cup. If it weren't for them, they actually could have probably gone out of this group. They blew a 3-1 lead to Cameroon. That match finished 3-3. And then against Switzerland, what a match that was. So heated. However, yeah, they blew that one as well. They had a 2-1 lead and Switzerland were able to get the result at the end, finishing 3-2. The Brazil loss, obviously that was expected. But with this generation of players they have, this was their perfect opportunity to get 4 to 6 points at least. But no, they got 1 and they finished last in their group. I knew there was a huge possibility it would be Switzerland instead. They still have such an underrated side. The crazy thing though is if they beat Serbia by more goals, they could have even topped Brazil, as Brazil lost to Cameroon on the final match day. I've said it so many times, Switzerland are one of the most underrated sides in Europe, and they proved it again. But I just had such a feeling we'd see a dark horse performance from Serbia. I was really surprised with some of the decisions Pixie made, especially in that final match against Switzerland. He took off so many crucial players. After that, they just totally lost all the flow, and then we just saw fights progress. Unfortunately, once they're at the big stage in the major tournaments, they just seem to bottle it. Everything was going their way. They topped Portugal in the World Cup qualifiers. They topped their Nations League group. This side went into the tournament with a lot of confidence, and maybe that's what killed them. I don't want to lose faith and belief in Serbia just yet, but I am starting to be a bit more doubtful on this side for the future. We'll see if they can qualify for their first ever Euro tournament, but even if they do, how well would they do at that point? They still have never even made out of the group stage in the World Cup. Best of luck to Serbia in the future, but I am very disappointed in this side.
And finally, the last group we're looking at, Group H, with Portugal, Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. This is a group as well where I could see an underdog pulling through. For Uruguay's case, they went through a bit of a roller coaster throughout the World Cup qualifiers. Well, it was an upward trajectory. They failed to get some good results against teams they should have been under Oscar Tabarez, their long-term coach. He got sacked. In came Diego Alonso, who finished the job at the end to qualify Uruguay for the World Cup, but lost to Iran in the recent friendlies. So we could potentially see another Asia team upsetting them. And they're actually playing South Korea first. But like I said, a result like that would not be enough for them to make it to the next round, but they still share points with Portugal at the end. Here's what the table's looking like. Uruguay first, Portugal in second with 4 points, Ghana with 4 points as well at third, and South Korea in last with 2 points.
And Group H, I unfortunately changed my prediction last minute. I actually had South Korea going through in my second to last prediction video, but I decided to play it safe, which was a huge mistake. But again, it was down to the wire. South Korea, I managed to score more goals than Uruguay, which had them advancing to the next round. And although Ghana finished last, they still put off some very good fights in this tournament. Apart from not being able to grab revenge against Uruguay, although they still did halt them from making it to the next round, they nearly drew with Portugal. There was a controversial penalty call there, and they had a thrilling match against South Korea. It was crazy how on the final match day, everybody was saying it was down to the wire between Uruguay or Ghana, which one is going to qualify for the next round, and South Korea came out of nowhere to beat Portugal. Portugal, on the other hand, we got to give them props. Although they looked shaky in that South Korea match, they were able to get a very convincing display from Uruguay. One player that I've been very impressed with is Bruno Fernandes. I said in my most overrated player from every country video, that he was my pick. Obviously, he's a world-class player, but I did not think he'd be able to excel so well for the national team. But in my opinion, he has by far been their best player. Uruguay, on the other hand, should have done so much better. The only 2 goals they scored in this tournament were against Ghana. They failed to score any against South Korea. They failed to score any against Portugal, although they still got 4 points at the end. With that being said, I think it's a bit deserved that they couldn't pull through. And obviously, even though I got this prediction wrong at the end, I am very happy for South Korea. It's going to be an extremely tough task against Brazil, but what a side they have. Hwang Hee-chan being the difference maker against Portugal as well. What a group stage this has been, guys. Let me know how well you did on your predictions. I only got 1 group 100% correct, like I said. It could have been 2 or 3 if I didn't decide to overthink and make another final prediction video. But I still stuck with so many, I guess, bold claims that very much did not age well. In terms of actually getting correct how many teams would advance to the knockouts, I got 8 out of 16 correct, so only half. What a group stage this has been. If you got 16 out of 16 correct, shout out to you, because this World Cup has been nuts. But anyways, guys, I'm gonna end the video here. Let me know which team has been impressing you the most so far in this World Cup. And I'll be doing one more match vlog before I leave Qatar. I'll be attending Japan versus Croatia. Thank you all for the support, by the way, on those vlogs. Very much appreciated. After that, I'll be heading home. I'll stream the quarterfinals, semifinals, and final, along with doing other prediction videos along the way. So make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all for making it to the end, and I will see you all very, very soon. Take care. Lá com noite.